Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Highway to the Threemus Zone Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Tournament. We have whittled the field down from over 100 people who started in this down to the final 8, and we've got a heck of a race coming at you tonight. My name is Rexx Raul, and I'm joined by Xenocat. Xenocat, tell me how excited you are to be calling this today.
I am so excited to be calling this race. These runners are among the best of the best in our community, and we've got a seed for you tonight.
Oh, without a doubt. And as some people in the chat are already pointing out, it looks like we have the potential for a really fast seed here. All of the objectives other than number 1, and of course, objective number 1 is the same in every single seed in this event. The Forge, the Legend with the Adamant. Other than that, all 3 of them are on the overworld with only 1 key item required in order to complete them, and that's the package. If that package and a way to Zeromus is found, we only have to complete 3 out of 4 of the objectives. So if the key items turn out in really nice places, this could be over really quick.
Yeah, and with the new low-level strats that have been found and really perfected by a lot of runners this tournament. Jeez, I can't speak. We could very easily see our runners foregoing a grind and diving right into a Zeromus fight very early.
It's definitely a possibility. I mean, you can't deny that. Our 2 runners are dustygriff and Eisentiyama. dustygriff, as you see, the number 1 seed coming into the round of 16 in the table round, went undefeated at 6-0, the only runner who did that. So a lot of pedigree there. And Eisentiyama just came off of a really close matchup and won 2-1 against Xyrak. So this is going to be. These are 2 runners who are at the top of the game. Really looking forward to this. And we're going to see, if this happens to be a really fast seed, how they navigate that. Are they going to use some low-level strategies? Are they going to find a way to grind up as quickly as possible? What options are there? And if not, how quickly can they navigate through an entire seed just to find that one necessary key item?
Indeed. I mean, this could be a very fast seed, but it could also be a very long and winding seed if the package is buried behind a long key item chain, or both the Legend and Adamant are not easily accessible.
So yeah, that's what it is. Now this complete mount Ordeals is something that we've seen being done in almost every race. Getting the extra spells on Tella has been very important, and the rescuing the hostage on Mount Hobbs is something that's a very low-level boss, so probably something that'll be done quickly. We're off to the races. We get Rosa along with Kane to be joining the party if they want. It looks like Dusty's going to go ahead and say, yes, I want Kane. Eisen was thinking about it a little more and decided to say no eventually. We also see a blue robe, and we get the rat tail to start up.
Yeah, this is a pretty powerful start, I would say, for a table seed. Rosa is a wonderful white mage and can do some pretty good damage with certain setups, and all Kane needs is a half-decent weapon, and he can carry your overworld once he gets a couple levels.
Right. He does kind of depend on that gear in order to be good, but when he gets the gear, he's really good. And if he can find something, even something like a Blizzard Spear, or if you're really lucky, like a Gugner Spear early, then as you just said, he can absolutely handle the overworld. But between even a lower weapon with him and Rosa, that's probably someone. Like, this is a pretty formidable team, and it might be about to get a little bit more formidable as we see on Eizantayama's screen. Sid, who's been very popular in this flag set, has been offered, as well as Cecil.
Yeah, Sid is a great party member early on in this flag set, as his starting HP pool just makes him basically able to tank everything on the overworld. And even with his starting wooden hammer, he can do a decent amount of damage.
But it looks like Eisentiyama still holding off. Maybe wants to see, do I get better hammers and axes, or do I get better spears and swords, to decide between that Kane and that Sid. Also, might want to see if it is going to be a situation where if I find that package really early, how much grinding am I going to need to do? And that might weigh on the decision of who to take in the party as well.
And meanwhile, dustygriff has found Rydia in Damcian. Don't believe he took Rydia. She's not a super popular take because she takes a lot of experience to get really Zeromus ready.
Yeah, I've found that a lot of the runners do kind of like Rydia, but only as an option for what we call an experienced slingshot. There are certain grind fights that give a ton of experience, and if you're able to have Rydia in the party and her level is 5 levels below the median party member's level, then she'll get a double experience for that fight as well. And so that kind of negates the problem of her needing so much experience to be online. And so if you could do that in one fight with some of the preferred grinds of the Giants, say the Mac Giant grind or the D Machine grind, then Rydia becomes a lot more attractive as far as a person that you want to have at the end game.
Indeed. Looks like we had I believe that was a Porum in the bed.
It was a twin. I'm really bad at identifying which twin is in the bed.
I'm pretty sure the ponytail was on the left side, so it's the right-handed twin.
You know more than me about that. Oh, yeah, other people are confirming it, so yeah, I'll take your word for it.
It can be very hard to tell if you haven't specifically devised a mnemonic to help you remember.
dustygriff now heading over to Mysidia, seeing the Sid and Cecil that are available to take there. Meanwhile, Eisentiyama heading back over to Damcian, where we saw dustygriff pick up Rydia. Now, since they're doing some things that we've already seen, just a quick shout out right here at the top of the broadcast. Big thanks to our Restreamed team. We've got Jofus Manos on the tracking and Smapty doing the restreaming. Big shout outs to both of them for helping us put on a great show, because without them, there is no show.
Yes, I'd like to echo that shout out.
But it looks like dustygriff might want another party member heading into the Tower of Wishes now. Has that Kane already? Who else is going to be added? And it looks like Rydia is going to be on the team already. I don't know. I might have missed it. Did Dusty see a good summon that was available in a shop or in a chest or something? Because that could really impact your decision as to whether or not you want to take Rydia on the team.
I'm not sure. I didn't see anything, but I could have very easily missed it.
Right. Well, we'll see. But I mean, the flag set that we're using today does have the permajoin flag on. So once you decide to add somebody to your team, you can't let them go. We do see that there is a dancing dagger for sale right there in Mysidia. That's something that Rydia can use. So that might be a reason why he was leaning towards her as well.
Yeah, might just be taking her to check this Hob summon.
Yeah, I guess there could be a reset after that too, yeah.
You can't check this summon without Rydia, but it could be really good. And we see Asura.
That's an interesting choice. Having Rosa in the party, I think, makes Asura a bit redundant, but he doesn't do an immediate reset, so he's going to continue at least for now, and going to make a Westmount Hobbs check. Only one chest open here. That the sparse 60 flag really biting that Westmount Hobbs loot.
Yeah, and only finding the not so great bow.
It is not a descriptive name, but Old Man Tella is the character up on the top of Mount Hobbs, a character that people really like, and in this situation, probably great because you're gonna have to take him because of that objective number 3 here.
Yeah, and since Ordeals is also required, really great seed. All you need is to find a darkness crystal, which is quite likely, as that's one of only 2 ways to get to Zeromus, and you've got access to your D-Machine grind.
Also nice that Tella by himself has enough HP to tank the dark waves that Dark Knight Cecil attacks with here. You take 3 dark waves without attacking him, and he talks about justice and gets away. So this is an easy win. This is basically a free objective for our runners. Plus, you get access to maybe the most popular character in these flags.
Yeah, meanwhile, Eisentiyama is diving into the antlion nest, looking to get this relatively easy key item check out of the way.
And I can totally understand wanting to take on this fight before heading up to Mount Hobbs. Getting just a couple extra levels before fighting the boss up at Mount Hobbs is often a very safe play. He, of course, doesn't know that you basically have that free win there. dustygriff heading over to Toria Castle, wants to do a little bit more looting at this point. Of course, we can't get the big treasury that we like to rate until after we get the Earth Crystal, but I think that was a Gungnir Spear.
I missed that, but...
Yeah, a Gungnir Spear and a Dragoon Armor. Pretty good haul for Kane there. There was also a power staff, so that's a decent offensive option for Rosa as well, while Eizantayama fights the Nope Noodle at the bottom of the Antlion Cave.
Yeah, this Nope Noodle is one of the rudest bosses he could have found here. With very limited damage output at this point, this Nope Noodle is going to get a few of his waves off, and those waves aren't based on any stats of this spot, so you're going to have to be putting out some healing to keep up with the big waves.
Or realize that you're going to probably have to heal afterwards. The critical hit from Sid, able to take out Ogopogo here, and we're going to get that key item check very shortly, and we get the Magma Keys, so underground access is gained very quickly in this seed.
Yeah, that is a very early Magma Key, which opens up a lot of better shops, better loot, and a couple of completely free key item checks that only require walking. There's the free chest in the Feymarch and the Sheila 1 check, where you go and visit Yang in the Sylvan Cave, and then return to his wife in Kabul.
Yeah, in the vanilla game, that's how you get the pan. But in this game, it'll get you a random possible key item, or if not a key item, a good piece of loot. Oh, wow, missed that when Eisen went through the Antlion Cave, found a ninja sword. That's a very good piece of equipment for Edge if we find the ninja. If not, it sells for a lot of money.
Yeah, unfortunately, Edge is restricted to gated character checks in this flag set, so we won't be seeing an Edge on the overworld, but we could be seeing him at Dwarf Castle or at that package whenever that shows up.
Now, Xenocat, what you mentioned earlier about those couple of free checks that the Underground opens up for our runners makes it even more interesting that we just need that one key item to complete all 3 of the objectives. Remember, once we get the package, we have access to objective number 4. Objective number 3 has already been done by Dusty, and it's going to be done very shortly here by Eisentiyama. And then all we have to do is objective 2. And remember, 3 out of 4 objectives is what we need for this event. So once 3 are completed, you get the crystal. Then all we need is a way to get to Zeromus.
Yeah, and with those 2 completely free key items just sitting there in the underground, that's certainly very tempting to go dive underground right away and check those 2, because they're very quick. And if one of those is that package, that's a huge bit of information that you have.
Yeah, I think there's a balance between trying to route everything as efficiently as possible and also gambling as to where you think, well, what's going to be an opportune point for me to make a gamble to get an edge over my opponent? Because at this point, both of these runners are going to be playing very tight. Like, I don't know if either of them have a huge advantage if they just try to play optimally. I think both of them are going to try to make a play we've already seen some divergence. The character selection is one big one, with dustygriff having taken Rydia and Kain. Meanwhile, Eizantayama has decided to take Sid instead. So the party composition is already considerably different for the two runners.
And we see even more divergence as dustygriff is heading up Mount Ordeals, which is that second objective, while Eisentiyama is using the magma key and looking to maybe be diving underground for those key item checks.
Yeah, I imagine bolstered by some of that equipment that Dusty was able to pick up in that Torium small treasury. The thought of getting through these fights up here is a lot easier when you're equipped with a bunch of Dragoon equipment and a Gugner Spear on your Kain. And plus you've got Tella and Rosa for some healing if you need it. Like, this is a pretty tough team, even though their levels are relatively low.
Yeah, and I mean, you get a decent amount of experience from Mount Hobbs, and once you get through the first fight of Mount Ordeals, you'll get even more experience for the second fight. So with these levels, shouldn't have too many issues with most bosses on Mount Ordeals. As we see Asura in the first spot, relatively free if you're willing to give up a couple of Star Veils, or hit her when right after she uses life and keep her locked in her life 1 phase.
It looks like that is the strategy that Dusty is going with here, as we see the attacks coming out once the life has been cast. Meanwhile, Eizantayama has made a save outside of the Feymarch, finds the trap chest. There's only one trap chest in the Feymarch, but it's the first one. So an easy reset, now has free reign to loot all the other chests in this dungeon. So this is a really nice way to really stockpile on both equipment and possibly money, depending on what's available to sell once you do this. If on seeds where you get an early magma key like this, so very smart play by Eizantayama as well.
Yeah, and this loot in this area, in this walk down to the Feymarch, is notably better than a lot of the loot you'll find on the overworld.
Well, at least it has the potential of being there. Like, it pulls from possibly better things. I think that Tiara has been the best pickup so far. That Sylph summon would be nice, though, if Eisen had picked up the Rydia, but he did not. So we saw a Mute Dagger, which would be very nice for the Ashura fight. It was good stuff, but I think dustygriff has won with that mini treasury so far as the loot pickups.
Yeah, I would say that in this particular seed, that mini treasury has been better for the party than that walk down, and just finding a crystal ring in that Feymarch freebie.
It's one of the best defensive items that can be used by pretty much anybody, but you're really hoping to get progression in these limited free key items. The time that you're going down here to make this play is going to be time versus what Dusty is progressing with here towards the objective of completing Mount Ordeals.
Yeah, and dustygriff is already through that Asura fight. Just swapping rows and saving and getting ready for that back attack, which is a Lunar Sparkle.
Looks like Eizantayama is going to be fighting the Bahamut in the vanilla Leviathan spot. As long as the Star Veils don't wear out, he only has 2 of them. But if they don't wear out and he can reflect enough Mega Nukes, he should be in good shape here.
I believe at this spot you're going to need to re-up the Star Veils. The Bahamut just has too much health. So it looks like only using 1 to start out. Definitely has to play.
Yeah, he only has 2 in his inventory. So after this second Mega Nuke, as long as it gets reflected, I think you're right. He'll have to re-up it, and once the third one goes, then he should be good. But the timing is right. If he does it too early, it'll get reflected.
Going into that white magic menu to check that wall status.
Yeah, very, very heads up playing, making sure you know what's happening. And the third Mega Nuke gets reflected. The Bahamut is still standing. I think the next one will probably be enough here.
Under the wall held. And Bahamut goes down.
That was really well played. Like, played it careful, but played it smart by Eisentiyama. Plague was also dispatched by dustygriff. That's like a sneaky, nasty spot for Plague there in the back attack, but was able to get through it efficiently. And we're close to. It looks like Eisentiyama got the hook, which is not unimportant as we have that rat tail. The hook does allow the rat tail to be turned in, so that's a good find by Eisentiyama.
Yeah, that hook opens up that check, as well as opening up the Cave Eblon shops, which are some of the best shops in the game.
Also, a character check in Eblin Cave as well, if that's important. But Dusty found what's really important, and that's the package.
Oh my goodness, dustygriff just needs Zeromus access for go mode.
Yeah, that is very quick here. Of course, he does need to beat this boss here, but man, oh man, the boss that you have to do for the... Well, you don't even have to fight a boss. You just need to burn down the Village of Mist. If you want to complete the cutscene, it is a very easy boss in the Village of Kaipo afterwards. You also get a character check through that. But we are very close as dustygriff has completed Mount Ordeals for objective number 2 and is very shortly going to be able to complete objective number 3. But the question is, where is the Darkness Crystal or the Pass?
Yes. Dustygriff may have all the ingredients to get his crystal, but without some access to Zeromus, that crystal doesn't do anything.
Now, this does look like a really big lead for dustygriff, but like Eisentiyama is not in bad shape here either. Unless it turns out that the dustygriff finds the pass in his next check. The logical places for Eisen to go are that rat tail chest, Fabul for 2 checks there, and then the objective in Mount Ordeals is still something that he's going to want to complete before too long as well. So he's going to have a few more checks under his belt as far as looking for what we know is going to need to be done, either that pass or the Darkness Crystal. So it's still really close, and either runner could take it at this point, I would absolutely say.
Indeed. Eisentiyama just stopping by Dwarf Castle to do some shopping, while dustygriff is just stopping by Mist Cave to check for Vanilla D Mist. Unfortunately, just King Queen Eblon.
And dustygriff entering the town of Mist. This will trigger the objective number 4 and give him his crystal. We also see that the character check for this would be Paladin Cecil. Not sure if that's anybody that Dusty would be interested in adding to his squad right now. We don't really have any good weapons for him, and we've already got some decent anchoring options with either the level 1 Rydia if you keep her knocked out, or Tella makes a decent anchor as well for the end game.
Yeah, and looks like Eisentiyama's having a hard time selling some things just to get an Ogre Axe, which is a pretty good weapon for that Sid.
One of the best weapons for Sid, without a doubt. I personally rank it as the number 2. The Artemis bow is the only one that I really like more than the Ogre Axe.
I mean, it's very difficult to turn down an Artemis bow. But that Ogre Axe does solid damage, it's one-handed, and it hits the giant weakness, so it's very good for potentially doing a Mac Giant grind, although having a Tella, the D-Machine grind is going to be faster.
So yeah, Eizentayama now heading to Fabul, going to do the Fabul defense. We'll get fights Golbez here. That's an annoying fight wherever you find him because he likes to talk a lot, so it's a long fight. But he's going to get a key item check for completing this boss. Plus, he can go up to Yang and Sheila's home in the West Tower and get another key item check there because he went to visit the Sylphs already.
Yeah, so this is efficient routing on Eisentiyama's side, doing this double check here in Kabul.
Well, this is the advantage of making that early magma play, is to route all of these choices together.
Yeah, although dustygriff has not done Kabul defense either, so he'll be able to do the same routing, just a little bit behind, as he has now dropped his magma key down the well and is checking the item shop in Egert.
And that's another kind of routing optimization by dustygriff. There's going to be certain items that you're just going to want to have in your inventory, and the timing for when you want to actually do the shopping is best if there's also another reason for you to visit the town. And so visiting that item shop at the same time that you're dropping the magma key in the well is about as good as you can get for Agart.
Yeah, there's not really any other reason I can think of to go to Agart other than shopping or dropping the magma key.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're playing dark matter percent, but that's a totally different thing.
Yeah. Although that's usually at the end of the seed, which is usually after you want your shopping done.
That's true, too. As we see dustygriff now making a similar play as Eisentiyama running in there, we'll see if he decides to make that same play against Bahamut that we saw Eisentiyama do. Because if he's able to do that, then he'll have access to that hook. And that could be important. We don't know what key item is behind that hook yet with that rat tail check, but that's still something that's out there, and it could be important, it could not.
Yeah, and if we do have a very jetty seed with a pass showing up soon, that hook character could be an Edward, which would be very valuable for our runners. But we find a tower key from the Kabul defense, and now Eizentayama is heading up to check what she was going to give us.
It's the adamant, not exactly what we're going to be needing in this particular seed. Eisen doesn't realize that yet, and is probably very happy to see that at this point. He doesn't know that once he completes Mount Ordeals, he'd be given the pass to get the 2 objectives that Dusty's already completed done really quickly right away. But it probably feels nice right now. It looks like he is going to check that rat tail before then. Dusty is fighting that Bahamut. Looks like going to use a similar strategy of just the one character up, which seems to be the right play to go. It worked very well for Eisentiyama.
Yeah, and don't blame Eisentiyama for checking this rat tail first. The rat tail is essentially another free check. There's no buffs associated with it. It's very quick.
And the Baron key. So we've got most of the overworld and underworld open to us at this point. Only a couple places that are still gated. So something is like the question is going to be who's going to make the right check that yields that pass or that darkness crystal.
Yeah, at this point, the only checks that we really have gated at this point are the sealed cave and the 2 dungeons near Troya, Cave Magnus, and the Tower of Zot.
Yeah, other than that, everything else is available to our runners. And so it's going to be really interesting to see which ones they prioritize. I imagine Baron Inn will be one relatively quick because that's kind of low level, and our parties seem to be, strong enough that they could probably handle that. The easiest boss of all is going to be the one in the tower, behind the tower key in the Tower of Babel. But you might want to route that when you can also do the boss at the top of the tower. And that one's a little bit higher level. At least it has a lot of hit points. So it could be that. There could be Dwarf Castle. That's another one. There's this Magus Sisters at the bottom of the Fey March, right next to where dustygriff is standing right now. That might require a little bit more. That's probably a pretty tough fight.
Yeah, that Magus Sisters fight would be really rough to take at this point.
Yeah, they're going to need some levels to do that, but that could be what's required as well. If that's where the darkness crystal is and the pass is hanging out on the moon, we might have to go through a lot of places here before anybody decides to check that.
Indeed. With that Baron key, though, I would suspect Eisentiyama is maybe feeling like Baron is a pretty good play to go for, since there is that Baron in check, which is a relatively easy check that's ungated, and there are 2 checks locked by that Baron key. The Liberative Baron Castle, which should be relatively easy, and the Baron Basement Throne, which could be a free boss.
That's a good point. If you're going to be routing, making your decisions based on efficient routing, going to Baron Inn followed by Baron Castle makes perfect sense. However, if your decision making is going to be more on gambling, then you might want to go somewhere a little more out of the way. Someplace like Dwarf Castle might be a place that you prioritize instead. So there's arguments for either way. And what's going to be right or wrong is going to be all up in the rando.
Yeah.
Question in the chat: who is the sprite at Baron? It was a blue robe, so either the Water Hag or the alternate gauntlet.
Yeah, and that blue robe might be a reason for our runners to put that Baron check off, because if that's the alternate gauntlet, that turns a kind of long check into an even longer check. And no one really wants to do that long. No one wants to sit through 5 fights just to get access to liberating Baron Castle.
Eisentiyama has defeated the Ashura in the first spot here in Mount Ordeals. I think dustygriff had a little bit easier time with it because that Gugner Spear is, that much better at dishing out damage than what he's got right now. But now he's got to have that plague in the back attack, and we'll see how he handles this. Dusty handled it quite well.
Yeah, I mean, some of the advantages Dusty had is that Gungnir Spear and Rose's bow and arrows do extra damage to Plague as Plague is flying and weak to arrows and spears. But Eisentiyama will have a higher level Rosa with those arrows.
Looks like that countdown is running out pretty quickly. He did get Berserk off on the Rosa, and in certain situations, if the agility is right, then that'll make it so that the countdown doesn't wear out. We saw a couple things happen there. First of all, the agility wasn't perfect, so still got wiped out by that. But Rosa missed with the Berserked bow and arrow. There's a thing with having a character in the center position and getting a boost to the accuracy. If you boost it too high, it'll overflow and miss sometimes. That might have been what happened there. Otherwise, it could. I don't know what bow he's got. If it's still just the short bow or that great bow that, as we mentioned, is not that great, then it could just be low hit percentage that caused that too.
I believe that miss was just the great bow being
not that
so
great. Yeah.
And with the Berserk command, you don't have the same issue as the aim command, which will cause the accuracy to overflow.
And this is what I mean when I said earlier that this plague spot is sneakily difficult. We're going to see a little bit of a change up in strategy by Eizentiyama here, I believe. Going to that power staff from Tella, so might be trying to either berserk up even more characters or trying to knock himself out to reset the plague countdown here, but still wants to get that berserk off right away. This is getting pretty tough here, I must say.
Yeah, given that it takes... The count has already ticked down almost halfway before you even get a first turn.
Yeah. And yeah, EizanTayama bailing. Can't blame him. You know, you can only bang your head against a tough boss so many times before you realize you got to do something different before attempting it again.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate to see, but I mean, if you're not getting through something, it makes sense to go try something else and see if you can't get some levels on the way.
Yeah, and what's really unfortunate is we know that the key item that Eisen would be given for completing that is the package. So it's really going to be, when does he feel comfortable enough to go back there? Because it's going to be really important to complete that objective. For multiple reasons, but that's kind of the biggest one overall, I'd say.
I mean, I would imagine feeling comfortable heading back into that with just a different anchoring situation or a few more levels.
Something like that. If you could find even a good bow, like an elven bow or something like that, might be enough to get you over the edge. Yeah, if you find like a kamikaze in a chest somewhere, there's methods to try to cheese plague by knocking out one of your characters, and that's the easiest way to do it. You could enter in a random encounter in a safe place and knock out one of your characters there and start the fight with one of your characters knocked out. That gives you some time to reset the counter by reviving them. And if Plague sees one of your characters not having a countdown on them, he'll reset it back to 10 on your entire party. So that's something to consider as well.
Meanwhile, we see dustygriff heading into Baron Inn, where the character is an Edward and D-Mist talking to D-Mist.
This Edward could be potentially huge if the pass is found by dustygriff very soon, because we've seen it in this event before, and believe it or not, a level 5 60 hit point Edward can solo Zeromus. So we'll see if that happens, and if it does, we'll talk about it then. But that just having that as an option for Dusty has got to be good.
Yeah, and just finding Kaipo guards behind that D-Mist. So this is looking like a pretty tame Baron Inn.
Yeah, this is one of those fights that if the wrong boss is here and your party isn't a bit underleveled, it can be a very difficult boss to get through. But with this team, you've got some additional spells, especially from Tella, to try to help get through it. But even if you don't use, like, you see Dusty trying to throw out stones to kind of one-shot them, or at least did the first time around. But this spot doesn't give any experience anyways, so you don't have to worry about killing the officer. It'll run away once all the soldiers are gone, and you get through the fight no matter what.
And he is through the fight now, and the reward for completing Baron Inn is the pan.
So that's pretty good. That's going to enable another 2 potential key item checks, plus 1 for defeating the Mist Dragon. Since we do not have free key items on, what happens is once you defeat D-Mist, you can go to Mist Village and talk to Rydia's mom, and she will give you a potential key item as well. So dustygriff rewarded with 3 potential key item checks, and I totally understand making the choice to check those freebies now before heading back to Baron and doing the check in there, even though he was already in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that Baron check is just going to be such a long check for just... You're going to have to fight 2 bosses just to get 1 key item, but you've got 3 key item checks available without any extra boss fights.
Dustygriff gets the Sand Ruby. That's kind of an awkward, even if he wants that twin, the Porum that's in the bed, because he's burned down Mist Village, the next time he goes to Kaipo, he's going to have to go through that long cutscene and boss battle. So that doesn't really do a whole lot for him right now. It looks like Eisentiyama is doing a couple things, both grinding up a little bit and had knocked out Tella. Probably wants to use that to prep up a little bit for this plague fight. by trying to reset the plague counter during the fight. So should be much more prepared this time.
Yeah, took a fight outside of Baron to knock down Tella, and I think may have just forgotten to turn off random encounters when he got to Ordeals.
Whether or not it was intentional, it was a little bit of grinding.
That is true.
dustygriff going and whacking Yang with the pan. Then the sylphs give him just an hourglass too. It's a very nice item, but still not the progression that he's looking for. But now he can go return that pan back to Sheila in Fabul for the third of the 3 key item checks, and we'll see what he gets there. And now Eisentiyama in a much better position right now in this plague fight.
Yeah, gets that refresh, which gives him a lot more time to sort of get everything set up. And Tella's having no trouble knocking himself out.
And Dusty has found the darkness crystal from Sheila too, so we are officially in go mode. Now, that darkness crystal does give Dusty some options. There's some grinds that you can be done in the Giant of Babil, and he's got access to Tella for the D machine grind if that's what he wants to do. But we also saw that Edward, so we could do Edward strats too. So we'll see what Dusty decides to do with his with the play here. Looks like he is going to Kaipo, so it might be the Cecil, it might be that Porum.
Yeah, this is an interesting play by Dusty. But if you can slingshot a Cecil up to ridiculous levels, his agility kind of doesn't matter. So that might be what he's going for.
Well, we don't have a great weapon for him. I think the best that we saw was probably the Ogre Axe that was for sale. And meanwhile, there's Wyvern, but luckily Dusty is able to take out the Wyvern before the Mega Nuke comes out. But yeah, I that's still an option, I guess. Is Cecil? Oh, in the chat, Divergent Worldliness saying weren't Starveils here. If there are Starveils for sale in this town, then that could be the reason why he's going as well.
Yeah. Well, probably does not have enough Starveils to pull off some of the low-level strats, and yeah, that looks to be what's happening.
Yeah, buying a bunch of Starveils, that kind of indicates some sort of low-level strats. At that, the amount that he bought makes me think Edward strats rather than like there's also 1200 HP strats, but maybe I'm wrong. I get wrong so many times because it looks like he's picking up this other Rydia, and it looks like he's going to slingshot a couple of Rydias and go with reflect strats for Zeromus, and 10 Starveils should be more than enough for that. Now, we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, if you've got a character who is at least 5 levels below the median level of the level of the median level of your party members. Oh, I just saying the phrase is kind of awkward. But if you're 5 levels below the party median, then you can get double experience for a fight. So what dustygriff is going to do is he's going to set it up so that he knows that he's going to encounter a fight that will yield him a whole lot of experience in one go and get double that on the Rydias. So they should go from almost nothing to having nuke all in one fight. That would be the strategy here.
Yeah, and you need to have a full party of 5 for the slingshot mechanic to kick in, and you can only slingshot 2 people at once because the third person would be the median of your party. but looks like it has the slingshot all set up on both of those Rydias.
Zentor asked the question, what did Dusty do differently that put him so far ahead? First of all, he was able to get through that plague fight a lot easier than Eisen did, and that helped a lot. Plus, when the magma key was found so early, Eisentiyama decided to go through most of the underground for shopping and key item checks and everything, whereas Dusty Griff kind of laser focus went towards Mount Ordeals to get him that package a lot quicker. And so that's kind of really the only difference between these two. But the fact that everything was available so quickly, even a small difference in time like we're seeing right now, like Eisentiyama is going through in the Baron Inn right now. He's really not that far behind Dusty Griff, all things considered.
Yeah, once Eisentiyama's through this fight, he'll be all caught up in terms of boss fights, other than that package fight.
Right, and then he'll be able to check that. He'll be able to check that demist. He's going to get pointed in the right direction, basically the same way that Dusty Griff was. As long as Eizantayama does make that check for the pan and do the free check that are available through that right away, like we saw Dusty give, he's only going to be a few minutes behind.
To answer a question in chat about Rydia getting levels, that Rydia starts at level 1, so she can afford to get a few levels during the grind setup. Outside of Baron, she's probably only going to get 3 or 4 levels total, and all of your other characters start at level 10, essentially. All the other characters in this party start at level 10 or even 20 for Tella. So they are still going to be more than 5 levels higher than those 2 Rydias.
But if there's ever a time when you're doing that setup and you're afraid of that, then you can always knock them out during that that setup fight. Dusty Griff knew that he'd still be that 5 levels behind, so he's going to be okay here. Actually, one of them might be a little bit higher, but
I think the levels looked like level 12 on that higher level Rydia, and I think the Kane is level 18 and the Rosa is in the low 20s.
Okay, then he's good to go, yeah. But Eisen got that pan, and we know that that's going to be the important thing, because going through that pan circuit is going to be what completes that. He still does need to trigger the cutscene for burning down the village, and he's doing that while he's here, so he's going to have that done, and this is going to be objective number 3 completed for Eisentiyama, and he will be rewarded with his crystal, and both of our runners will have the crystal. Eisen just needs to go and complete that pan circuit to be officially in go mode. Xenocat, do you want to explain this D-Machine grind a little bit?
Sure. Basically what Dusty Griff is doing is there's this encounter in the Giant where with a Searcher and 2 Beamers to start. Once you kill the 2 Beamers, every time you attack the Searcher, it will summon a D-Machine. The D-Machine only does percentage-based damage on its own. If you hit it, it'll counter with a very nasty physical attack, but if you cast Weak on it, it doesn't counter, and then Weak will reduce it to single-digit HP, so pretty much anyone in the party can kill it. Now, most Black Mages don't learn Weak very early, but Tella gets it as part of his spell suite after completing Mount Ordeals, which is the reason that this grind is really viable in this randomizer, since Fusoya is not allowed in this tournament. What you see that Rydia just did, tossing a life potion on that D-Machine, that doubles the experience, which will reduce the number of D-Machines that Dusty Griff will have to summon to get all the experience that he needs for this rest of the seed.
And we get a couple of buffs on that experience as well, because I believe dustygriff is at 10 key items. In this particular flag set, and really most of the flags that we see in free enterprise, you get double experience once you've acquired 10 key items on your team. Plus, those Rydias get an extra double experience on top of that by that being 5 levels below the party median. So really, the Rydias are getting 4 times experience. Plus, in free enterprise, usually, and the way we have it set here, the experience for the enemies isn't divided among all your party members. Everybody gets full experience. So all things considered, this is going to be a much shorter grind. This is the same grind that's used in the vanilla speedrun of the game. It's set up a little bit differently, of course, but the principle is the same. But this one is so much faster because of all those things being added onto it as well.
Yeah, I believe dustygriff has already passed the number of D machines required to get those Rydias up to nuke. So it could be going just for a little extra experience for Rosa to make sure that she gets white, since she is not getting a slingshot.
Yeah, it looks like some of the timing was a little bit off on this last round. If you get a physical attack in on the D machine before the weak spell is applied to it, it'll counter with a nasty physical attack. That one-shot one of his characters didn't get time up. Like, the timing was off and Rosa knocked down to a flame, but luckily able to recover here. And I think we're probably pretty close, as the weak is coming on the Searcher, and that signals the end of the grind. He just needs to knock out the Searcher, and then we'll knock out Tellus to make sure that he doesn't get any agility, because he's going to be our anchor for the final fight. But we're going to we're looking to see nuke on each of the Rydias, and we're looking to see white, if possible, on the Rosa. So here's Rosa's spells that she learns. And there is white, so we got there. And 45 levels on the Rydia. That was the one that was at level 12, I think, so that should be enough for nuke, for sure.
I think I saw 880,000-ish experience, so those Rydias should have
1.6 million?
Shot. Closer to 1.7.
So yeah, they both have nuke, so we've got the spells that we need. So when we get to the Zeromus fight, what you're doing by having these 3 mages here, the problem with Zeromus is if you hit Zeromus directly with that nuke or the white, he's going to give you nasty counterattacks, and you don't want to mess with any of that. So the way to get around that is to use a Star Veil or the Wall spell and bounce the spells off your own team members, because in Final Fantasy IV, if you reflect something, then the enemy never counterattacks the reflected thing. So that's a way to get around the nasty, like the counter nukes and everything that Zeromus could throw out. In addition, this also bypasses phase changes of the bosses and effectively makes it so that you can defeat Zeromus by dealing about half the damage required normally to beat him. So it's going to be a boon in multiple ways.
Yeah, and all that's just because any reflected damage counts as a counterattack, and you can't counter a counterattack, because otherwise, in the way the programmings work, the spells could theoretically bounce back and forth off of walls, and that's no fun. So because we can't trigger any of the counterattacks, Zeromus won't be doing any of his counter nukes, and his HP refill also counts as a counterattack. So he won't be refilling his HP.
Right. So it's going to be a pretty... if everything goes as well as possible, we'll only see one big bang from Zeromus, and if everything's going even better than that, nobody's going to die on that big bang either. If as long as that all holds, now that's to say, sometimes things don't go exactly the way you want them to, so that could still be a bit of an issue. But in the meantime, Eisentiyama has collected his Darkness Crystal. So both of our runners now officially in go mode. I see Eisentiyama buying some ethers. That kind of signals to me that he is planning on doing the same grind that we saw Dusty do. So we're probably going to see a D-Machine grind for Eisentiyama right as Zeromus is being fought by dustygriff. And as long as there's no, as long as there's not a wipe, I think this is Dusty's race at this point.
Yeah, and with these levels on his team, everyone being, except for Tella, being in the at least level 50, I'm not seeing dustygriff wiping easily to reflect strats.
Right. These are a strategy that most of the top runners have done countless times. This is not going to be anything unusual for dustygriff at all. But sometimes Zeromuses, and I always like to remind runners, Zeromus is not a joke.
Yeah. Don't have to worry about Big Bang into Meteor since we won't be seeing rocks, hopefully, in dustygriff's fight, but sometimes those Big Bangs can roll high, and if that second Big Bang comes out, things could get a little bit scary.
Yeah, that's the real thing. Now, having that extra character, and this is another reason why a lot of runners like Sid, is that Sid gives you a character with a really high HP base, so that if that second Big Bang does hit and it is difficult to, the timing isn't so great, you've got a little bit of extra leeway to recover. Now, Kane works in that situation as well, but he just doesn't have that high HP pool that Sid does.
Yeah, Sid would probably be able to take the first two Big Bangs without needing a heal, whereas Kane will probably need to be healed after the first Big Bang in order to take the second one if it's unnerfed.
And now, as we are at the bottom of the lunar core, it's time to ask that question: whose butt are we going to kick tonight?
For those of you who are new to this randomizer, we can't really move the final boss around since he's special and is kind of difficult, and there's a lot of intricacies to his script. So instead of randomizing his location like we do with all the other bosses, we randomize his sprite because we got bored of fighting the same final boss over and over.
And the change of the sprite means absolutely nothing as far as what his combat script is. He's going to do the same thing every time you fight him. He's going to throw out big bangs. He's going to throw out black holes, nukes and viruses, and finish with Meteor. Although, because as Xenocat mentioned, the bypassing of phase changing, we probably won't see any Meteors today.
Oh, and we have Eizelmus.
If you're a big fan of googly eyes, well, we got some googly eyes for you here.
I mean, this is pretty close to a vanilla Zeromus sprite, I would say.
It is pretty close. But I would say the eyes have it tonight. And as you see, both the Rydias are bouncing nukes off of the Star Veil was set up really early, and now we are using a Silk Web. This is going to do a couple things. Silk Web counts as 2 slow spells, so that's going to make it so that Zeromus acts in a much slower time. But it's also going to make his first Big Bang do a lot less damage than it normally would. So when that first Big Bang comes up, the goal is to have everybody on the team stay alive, except probably Tella. Now, the counter nuke did hit Rosa, and so that's a little bit worrisome. But if we can get a heal in, if this Cure 3 that Tella's going to throw hits Rosa beforehand, then I think we're off to the races, and we probably won't need any more healing throughout the rest of the fight.
Yeah, and with Rosa's usual magic defense, she might be able to survive the Big Bang even if she doesn't get healed, but we see that Cure 3 coming off on Rosa now, and we should be able to get through the rest of this fight without any more healing.
Meanwhile, Eisentiyama now entering the Giant of Babel should be, if everything was set up correctly, the only fight he should see would be just like Dusty Griff's, that one Searcher 2 Beamers that'll get you that D-Machine grind. Here comes that first big bang.
And only Tella goes down.
Yep, as predicted. Now, if you want to do a little bit of safety, what you could do is have Kane resurrect Tella and have him use Cure 4 to heal up people. But if you think everything's going okay, you don't even need to worry about that. That's just extra time that it takes to defeat the boss. So it looks like he's foregoing that, and it's just going on the all-out offensive with these reflected end-level spells.
Yeah, and worst case scenario, looks like Kane does have enough HP to probably survive the next big bang.
Yeah. The other thing is, after the next big bang, the next thing that Zeromus would do after that is Black Hole, and that gives a little bit of extra time to recover too, so you can resurrect Rosa, heal up, and then get this started again. Ooh, but there's the flash, and we have completed it. Dusty Griff has won the first race in this match, and looks like we will get an official time in just a moment. 58 minutes and 15 seconds. We got a sub-hour complete by Dusty Griff. Big GG's, and we will try to get him in for an interview. Meanwhile, and I think we are now joined by Dusty Griff. Dusty, GG, congratulations on your win tonight. Blisteringly fast, sub 1 hour.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, that seed moved pretty fast once it got going.
Do you have any general thoughts on the seed?
It's the first time I think I got 10 key items in like the first half hour or 35 minutes in a really long time, which is super nice because that just kind of, I knew what my end game was pretty much already going to be, seeing those early Rydias. I got one early and held on to her because I thought, maybe if something popped up or something she'd be useful, but kind of had an idea of what I was going to do pretty early through that seed and just kind of continued with it. But yeah, that seed paid out in key items constantly, which was really nice.
Now, I guess the counterpoint to that is if you had found the pass instead of the darkness crystal where you did, like we saw that there was an Edward available. Was that going to be what you were going to think about doing then?
Yeah, probably. I may have opted for lower level strats since there was Sid hanging around, and I did have Kane and Rose on my team, so I had enough HP. But I don't know if I saw Vamps, so that would have been another thing. So I probably would have changed over to Eddie strats had that just been a pass. But with Darkness Crystal and with the setup that I had, it's just so fast to get a fully leveled team at that point. So worked out pretty nicely. I don't know if I saw Curse Ring anywhere either, which would have been a little annoying for Eddie strats. I think I could still made it work, but yeah, it worked out pretty nicely this way.
We did notice that you took and decided to add to your team very early the first Rydia. Like you said that you saw the two Rydias, and so you knew that you were going to go for that strategy, like right from the get-go, and that makes sense. But was there a specific reason in taking one of the Rydias into your party actively early?
Yeah, mainly to check out the back of Hobbs to see what the summon would be there. Because Sylph early is just so powerful for making your early game extremely quick. And I think it's just worth losing the slingshot, or at least making the slingshot harder to do, because you could still set it up, especially with Rydia's bad experience curve. It's kind of easy to set up a slingshot with her. But it was just kind of nice in case you do run into a Sylph for a good summon. I find Rydia's quite powerful in this flag set. wasn't necessary, as we saw, because really a lot of the checks in this seed just led to like 3 more checks that were ungated by things. It's just, you know, you do one check and it opens up like Pan and Rat Tail or whatever else. So it was a lot of key items going on, so it wasn't too much of a worry of actually getting through things. But yeah, that was more or less where my head was at. And once I saw that tell out, it was kind of like the deal was sealed at that point.
Yeah, the seed was very generous with the key items, without a doubt. The other thing that I think really paid off was you made that early check into the Toria treasury, and you got a really souped up Kane early as well.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. I had my plan there was I had no damage. I had no real great way to get through stuff, so I needed money. I saw that Dancing Dagger in the city, I believe, and what I was going to do was just get money and go back and purchase some, and then Kane was going to get through. But then I found that Gungnir, and I said, oh, I don't need to go back and get that. I'm kind of set up now. And Gungnir is quite powerful on Kane, you know, for jumping and even just for basic attacks. So worked out super nicely in that regard. I think had I not found that, I would have been just fine, because Dancing Dagger itself would have dealt, especially in the early part, around the same amount of damage, but Gungnir paid off pretty well.
Xenocat, did you have any questions for Dusty here?
Nothing else for me.
Well, this does put you in the advantage here, going 1-0 so far against Eisentiyama. This tournament's been going pretty well for you so far. Do you have any thoughts on what's happened and what's to come?
Hopefully keep up doing what I'm doing, I guess. I feel like, and I've said this before, like I've made mistakes in every race. I've gotten lucky in races too, and played well enough most of the time that my mistakes have been covered up. But yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes, and I'm sure I'll make more, but I'm just hoping I can continue executing the same way I've been, and getting lucky as I have been, because that's definitely part of it too.
Well, just remember that justice is not the only right in this world.
Definitely.
But GG's once again. Congratulations on your win. Thank you for letting us watch you today, and thank you for joining us. And good luck in the rest of the event.
Thank you, folks, for coming this one. Thanks to the Restreamed team, and GG's to Eisen. Looking forward to the next match tomorrow.
All right. Well, that was our winner, Dusty Griff. Make sure to give both him and the runner-up tonight, Eisentiyama, a follow. This is just a great match, and we've got more of it coming up. And as Dusty alluded to, we will be seeing it tomorrow. We don't have it scheduled yet. It'll probably be restreamed, but I can't guarantee it at that time. But that match will be tomorrow. If necessary, check it out on their own channels, as the Moobot is kindly directing you to both of Eisen and Dusty's streams.
And as Eisentiyama is finishing up his grind, his Rudia is getting even more levels than Dusty Griff's learning Meteo. Dusty Griff is giving us music.
Traveling, it's the unknown world. I think of it as Alfgard, but great music from Dragon Quest, or as I knew it as a kid, Dragon Warrior. Ooh, that's a level 60 Rydia there. If you want power overwhelming, this is power overwhelming.
Yep. Nothing like taking Rydia up to Meteo to show Zeromus who's boss.
I think it's probably worth stating that probably the difference in the winning and losing, it might have come down to that plague and the difficulty that Eisen had taking out that particular boss. Dusty was able to get through the plague on the first try, and Eisentiyama took a few tries and then had to leave and come back with a different strategy. That time loss is pretty significant.
Yeah, and it's just an unfortunate result of the difference in party composition and the difference in the damage output of the two parties. And
Yeah, that plague is like the X factor. There were other little things that affected time here and there, and I think a lot of it went Dusty's way. But like, Eisen's going to be finishing this seed off at probably about 1:15, and that's still an amazing time.
yeah, I mean, 1:15 is certainly faster than any seed I've done on this flag set.
And it looks like he needs to do a little shopping. He might know of another place to get star veils if that's what he's looking for. Looks like he's going for the equipment shop, so it might be something else that he's looking for here. Maybe it was a curse string?
Might be that curse string, since his Tella did get levels during that D machine. But with that curse string, should be still perfectly fine as an agility anchor.
Yeah, I believe with the curse string, I don't think Tella's agility goes above 16 or 17, something like that. So it'll always be like 1 or 2 with Tella if you've got that curse string on.
It does eventually get high enough, but I believe he gets to about 23 at level 60-ish.
Yeah, but luckily he's not close to that.
Yes.
So.
You're going to be fine with a curse string if your Tella hasn't hit level 60. Which, his Tella is still level 49, so perfectly fine there.
I wonder if Eisentiyama was on autopilot and forgot that he didn't have the pass there. So I know that's something that I've done, gone the wrong way to Zeromus.
Or might be making a save to check out music afterwards.
Fair enough, that could definitely be it too. But he is now off to the moon, going to head down, and we're going to see a very similar style fight that we saw with dustygriff. 2 Iridias and the Rosa blasting with very high-end magic. Sid's not going to be doing a whole lot in this at all. As long as he found that same silk web that we saw on Dusty's side, one of them will throw that, but that's going to be about it.
Yeah, and I expect this fight to go very quickly with the 2 level 60 Iridias.
Oh, look, you could have had 3rd Iridia.
But you can't slingshot 3 Iridias.
That is true. Because of using the party median and not the party average, you can't slingshot 3 characters.
Chat reminding us of the quality of life improvements in free enterprise. It's so nice to be able to land the whale right in front of the Lunar Palace rather than having to walk through the whole lunar path.
Yeah, in free enterprise, the only time that you really see the lunar pass is when you decide that you want to do that one trap chest for an experience gain.
Yeah, it is a little bit sad to not see that area that much, but at the same time, you really don't want to have to walk through the whole lunar path just to get to the lunar subterrane.
I mean, there's other things that are more sad that we don't see, but
that's true. You can't have everything be useful in free enterprise.
True. So Eisentiyama now ready to get to looks like he's just going to walk on past that last save point. This is our runners know what's up. Don't need to worry about it. Is confident enough that he's going to be able to defeat the Zeromus on the first try. And even if he doesn't, at this point he's already seen that dustygriff is finished. So figures might as well just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and I mean with the levels he's got, definitely not anticipating any issues with this Zeromus fight.
Yeah, if the Zeromus was Plague, however, Eisen would be very, very upset about seeing that here.
I mean, one of Plague's defining features is that single giant eye.
That's true, and we're seeing a bunch of eyes. And while this fight is getting started, once again, want to shout out our Restream team. Smapey doing the Restream, Jofus Mano doing the tracking. Also want to shout out everybody over at the RPG Limit Break channel. They've been wonderful partners of ours throughout this entire event. We've been able to stream so many races throughout the several months that we've been going through this tournament. And so if it wasn't for our wonderful partners like the people over at RPG Limit Break, we wouldn't be able to show you as much. And so big thanks that they've been so kind to let us run our races on their channel. And we see one thing that Eisentiyama set up a little bit differently than we saw in Dusty is he set up the party order so that Sid is going to be the one who uses the Star Veil and is the target for the reflected spells. This is a little bit of very minor optimization as well. That means the first turn with all of your casters, you can go ahead and cast those powerful magics instead of having one of them spend a turn to use that Star Veil instead. It's not going to be life or death either way. We saw dustygriff handled it without any problems anyways, but that's just one of the little things that you can do to optimize this fight.
And looks like Eisentiyama does not have a Soul Clip, is opting instead to cast Slow twice. We see one come out from Rosa there, and we'll probably see one come out from Tella as well.
Yeah, might see one come out from Tella, but might be satisfied with just one as well. It might depend on how much damage these nukes are dealing and how well he feels with it. Dealing with another counter nuke because of the second slow could be annoying. If it hits Sid, though, all the better.
Well, why not reflect the second slow?
That's a good point. But if you do so, you'd want to do that with Tella, because with Rosa, you're going to want to be using as many whites as possible, I imagine.
Yeah, looks like not worried about getting that second slow. Just healing up Rosa with Tella, and then queuing up a white.
This is one of the things that's kind of an advantage of using that curse ring Tella. He can survive that first big bang when you gain the levels like that, as we see here. So if you need to throw around just a little bit of extra healing for a little bit of safety, you've got that option now. Even with a very low stat because of the cursed ring, if you single target a Cure 4, it will always heal to max.
Yeah. Cure 4 is special like that. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't care about your stat. As long as you can cast it and you're single targeting it, it will heal you to full. But this multi-target Cure 4...
Yeah, that is not very impressive. That's like a multi-target Cure 1 from Rosa.
Yeah, at least a late game Rosa.
Okay, we are getting pretty close here. And you see, it looks like Eizantayama was a little bit wary about this second Big Bang coming out, so altered strategy to do a Cure 4 with Rosa instead of another white. So in this case now, if that second Big Bang comes up, he should still be good.
Yeah, with the HP on those Rydias, even though this Big Bang probably won't be nerfed, there's no reason to worry. Everyone should survive. Except Tella.
Tella is often not included in everyone.
Fair enough.
The annoying thing is this black hole comes out, which means you're going to have to spend another turn with using a Star Veil. But all things considered, Eisen's in great shape to finish this.
Yeah, I expect 1 or 2 more spells, and this Zeromus should be down.
And there we have it. There's the flash. Eisentiyama has finished an official race spot time of 1 hour, 17 minutes and 48 seconds. GG's to the finish for Eisentiyama, and I believe we are now joined by him here in the booth. GG's on your finish, Eisentiyama. A bit of a rough go, especially at that plague, though.
Yeah. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yep. So tell us about this seed. You saw that early magma key, and you knew how that there were a couple of free objectives and just basically one key item needed. What was going through your head as you were going through the early parts of this run?
I didn't want to see a pass, and I didn't want to see an Edward.
Well, we gave you 1 out of the 2 because there was that one Edward. Oh, Eizentayama, I believe you're cutting out here. I'm not hearing you anymore.
This better?
I can hear you again, yes. Okay, if you've been talking, I haven't heard anything after this is this better. So if you've got another chance to talk, we'll do it. You might want to disconnect and rejoin our Discord here.
I should be good, I think.
Okay, then tell us about your what you were going to talk about.
I mean, I kind of. Dusty told me he had Kane and the gun near from Troy. I was like, well, when I picked that up, that's exactly what I thought would have happened. He might have went there first and went with Kane instead of a Sid. Turns out I was right.
Yeah, that was the big difference in your party. The other big thing is Dusty went to Mount Ordeals like right away while you were doing all those free checks in the underground and everything like that. He was taking care of that, and so he already had the basically the 2 things done before even going to the underground and doing like that Bahamut fight and everything like that. So it was a little bit of knowledge difference, but the main thing, was that plague fight was the real X factor, I think.
Yeah, well, I was generally looking for a weapon for anyone before I took someone else other than Rosa, but entering the waterfall and all the chests up top are empty, it kind of it's like, well, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, that sparse flag can sometimes make for a real fun loot.
And it could also make it be like you could get lucky and get a Gugner spear there, or it could have been like an Earth Hammer, and then you'd be brilliant for taking the Sid instead. So, Rando's going to Rando like that too.
Yep.
Well, you get to try to get your revenge. Looks like you're playing against Dusty again tomorrow at about the same time. Do you have any other thoughts on your race tonight or this series that you're having with Dusty right now?
I hope it's just not another jet seed.
Well, I'll put in a notice to Pancraz, who I think is going to be rolling your seed tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get something a little bit longer for you then, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for letting us watch your seed, and GG's, and good luck in the rest of the event, okay?
Thank you.
All right. That was our runner-up in tonight's race, Eisentiyama.